have anybody?
No.
Because I brought my camera just in case.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
We need camera people, we need a picture.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's my pleasure to introduce to you our Area Port Director, Paul Stephan.
Good afternoon and welcome to this flag of honor being donated by the Woodmen of the World organization. I mean, we're very honored here. But first, I'd like to do while we have the audience here is I want to go through and give out a few, some awards that have come in over the this past week. So we'll go into our presentation. The first award for 20 years of service with the government. Possibly, Chris, is this all with CBP?
Yes.
It's all with the agency. A lot of times your awards have both federal time working with the military as well as the agency. So the first award for 20 years is to Christopher Kenner. The next award, also for 20 years of service, is presented to Jim McCarty. Get half of it. Also, the next two awards come out of headquarters. As many of you know, we have the Nexus Enrollment Center here at the port, working with the Nexus cards and the fast cards as well. And this past year they went into global entry, so it's kind of a universal thing. But the Champlain office contributed about 40% more in their program this year, and the cards that they new cards and things like that that were issued in this past fiscal year, which is a very significant 40%, based on what they're doing every day is a significant increase. And we have a staff of 3, sometimes 4 that are down there doing a very good job. So the executive director from headquarters, Mr. Wagner, sent a letter. I'm going to read the one letter. They're both the same for these two individuals. It's, thank you for your outstanding contribution to the success of the Trusted Traveler Program. Your knowledge and expertise in U.S. Customs and Border Protection policies and procedures provided tremendous assistance to this office. Nexus and the Free and Secure Trade Program are critical programs, and the accomplishments are dependent on CB personnel such as yourselves. Your hard work at the Enrollment Center, resulting in a 40% application increase, was vital to the success of the program. Furthermore, your assistance in addressing challenging issues and recommendations to the program proved to be invaluable. A copy of this letter is going to be placed in the personnel folder here at the port, and it's thank you for a job well done and best wishes for continued success. John P. Wagner. The first one's going to go to Thomas Dragoon. They don't trust me with the knife, so I won't take it out, but they got a very nice knife along with Customs and Border Protection on it. So congratulations. And the last one goes to Officer Jeffrey Delamere. I'd like to introduce some of the dignitaries that we have here today, and a few of them I'll ask to come up and speak a few words on behalf of this great prestigious honor that we have here at the port, the Flag of Honor. The first is going to be Thomas O'Keefe, the President of the National Treasury Employees Union, Chapter 138 here for the area port of Champlain, which also includes the Alexandria Bay area port. Thomas?
Woodmen of the world, thank you very much. It's a big honor. Legislator McManus, friends, family, honored guests, and most importantly, I guess, our peers, people that I represent. This is really a great honor for us, and it's an appropriate honor, I feel, because for the last, ever since 9/11 happened, 9 years, not counting, of course, 9/11, we have had a ceremony here honoring the people that perished in 9/11. And, you know, sometimes I get discouraged with this country because, you know, sometimes we're only as good as our last 30-second commercial. And we have a tendency to forget. And when Paul first said he was going to do this, we were going to do it on Veterans Day, which is a great honor because I have nothing but the utmost respect for veterans. Second only maybe to people that guard this border. And I asked him if he could delay it because I was going to be out of town, and he did, and I appreciate that. But it doesn't diminish the fact that we want to thank the veterans. We want to thank the people that work at this place, both uniformed and non-uniformed. We want to thank firefighters. We want to thank EMS people. We want to thank just John Q. citizen who gave their lives on 9/11. Didn't ask to be a hero, didn't ask to be anything, just going to work, doing what they're supposed to do. You know, this country, we stood up at the start of this, and we talked, we said the Pledge of Allegiance. And we're very much a lot about symbols in this country. And I have to apologize, I'm going to try to be brief, but I did kiss the Blarney Stone twice, so it's kind of in God's hands here. So, there's a couple things I do want to say. And one of the symbols that I want to make sure that at least all the guests get here, the distinguished guests that have never, you know, that are here visiting us today, is we developed a coin. It's called a challenge coin. It's a plaything for adults, I guess is what you could call it. And on it, there's a lot of different symbols. There's the Twin Towers, of course. There's a symbol of the Pentagon, the flag, all the ports this union represents. And on the bottom, you're going to see a 93. And if you're wondering what the 93 is, yes, it is the last year the Montreal Canadiens won the Stanley Cup, but that's not why I put it there. 93 was the first year the Trade Center was hit. People forget that. People think the world started on 9/11/2001, and it really happened before, and guess what? It's going to happen again. And it's our duty, it's our privilege to do what we can do to make sure it doesn't happen again. Doesn't mean we're going to catch everything, doesn't mean we should feel guilty if we don't catch everything. But we're here to try, and I have the utmost respect and pride to represent you people because you do a very good job here, whether it's commercial operations, whether it's collecting duty, whether it's stopping a terrorist, whether it's just the mundane stuff we do every day. I'm very, very proud of you, and I'm very proud to accept this on behalf of the employees here, especially the veterans. And I would like to close, I heard Linda bantering with her brother because she wouldn't let him quote a Republican. And those of you that know me might find this a little odd, but I'm going to quote a Republican too. But I said this on 9/11 this year, the 10th anniversary, and I'm just going to read the end of it, and I think you'll know where it's from. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to this great task remaining before us, that from those honored dead we take increased devotion to the cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall have not died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that a government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. God bless the veterans, God bless the employees here, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
I'd like to recognize and thank Doris Sullivan, jurisdictional president for the Northeast Woodmen of the World. Thank you very much. Timothy Gagnon, thank you as well. He's the secretary for the Woodmen of the World Lodge 462 and the area manager for Vermont and Long Island, New York. I want to thank Hometown News and Calvin Castine for coming out and recording and taping this so that we can see it forever and ever. And we thank them for their fine work. Peter Turner, the superintendent of the Northeast Clinton School District. Thank you very much for your attendance. Ronald Hewson and John Fillion from the Champlain Fire District. I want to thank you and the sacrifices that you do each and every day. Harry McManus, the county legislator for Area 1. Come up to the podium.
Thank you. I did not kiss the Blarney Stone, so I will not say too much, although in contrast to some of the classes, it just gives me tremendous pride to see so many former students out there that I've had an opportunity to interact with and so on. I'd like to thank the Woodmen for inviting me here today and for the job you guys do protecting our borders. That day was seared in my memory. I was teaching history. We were actually in the French Revolution at that point, and we stopped everything and we watched in horror in terms of what happened. And I think it galvanized people in terms of wanting to do something, and in thinking about that, it just reminded me that of the motto of the United States, E Pluribus Unum, and you know, from many, one, and on that day, we were all one. And I thank the Woodmen again. Thank you very much.
And the final dignitary we'd like to welcome is John Cheney from CBSA. He does the same thing that we do here on the American side for the Canadian side. John.
I'm very honored to be here in this special ceremony for the Flag of Honor. As a Canadian, I'd like to thank Mr. Mongillo for having me up here representing Canada, representing Canada Border Services Agency. I remember myself being here at the border. I was a supervisor on 09/11, and what hit me that day was that the impossibility to react in front of that horror involving thousands of Americans and also 91 Canadians that were struck into that act of terrorism. And I'm pleased that both countries, Canada and the United States, are daily, jointly working together to make sure that this will not happen again. And this, with good counterparts, good partnership with US CBP and Canada's Border Services Agency, will do work in the same purpose, same area, in order to keep these countries safe against terrorism. Thank you very much.
And I'll turn it over to Ms. Linda Gagnon-Horn.
Good afternoon. I'm very proud to be part of Woodmen of the World Life Insurance Society Lodge 462, currently its vice president. And I'm also very proud to be part of Customs and Border Protection and TEU Chapter 138 in this wonderful community. Thank you all for attending this ceremony today in honor and remembrance. For over a century, Woodmen of the World lodges across the country have been dedicating flagpoles and presenting flags to remember the men and women of our armed forces serving in combat. In addition, these ceremonies pay tribute to the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Police officers, firefighters, and emergency rescue personnel. They all deserve our thanks and admiration. And so too do the people who serve at our border crossings, whose daily task is to protect our citizens. The flag of honor we present to the Port of Champlain today honors the heroes and victims of September 11th, 2001. Fraternalism and patriotism are at the very core of Woodmen of the World. They're the fabric that makes us who we are. For more than 120 years, Woodmen of the World has strived to promote family, community, and country. Since 1947, our lodges have presented more than 2 million American flags to community-based organizations across the nation, second only, of course, to our government purchasing flags. Nearly 285,000 American History Awards to students in elementary, junior, and senior high schools, and more than 1.8 million American Patriots handbooks to schools, to scouts, and newly naturalized citizens. 10 years ago, we all experienced horrors that we never thought could occur in this land of freedom and opportunity. Our citizens and those of over 90 other countries lost their lives in the terrorist attacks in New York, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania. Hundreds of heroes materialized during and after those attacks. And it is to them and to those fighting to strengthen our freedom that we dedicate this ceremony. Abraham Lincoln once said, "Any nation that does not honor its heroes will not long endure." On this, the 10th year anniversary of the attacks, we each remember where we were and what we were doing the morning of September 11th, 2001. Some, like my husband, Michael Horn, the former customs librarian, relived the nightmare of evacuating 6 World Trade Center and witnessing the devastation firsthand. We will always remember. The events of that day changed our lives forever, making us realize that freedom is a very precious thing and not to be taken lightly. The flag of honor contains the names of all those that perished in the World Trade Towers, the Pentagon, United Flights 175 and 93, and American Flights 11 and 77. John Michelotti explains his inspiration for the design of the flag was the desire to immortalize the individual victims that were killed in the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, to give comfort to the families left behind, knowing that their loved ones will be forever honored and remembered, and to create an enduring symbol recognized by the world of the human sacrifice that occurred on September 11, 2001. These flags give the families, friends, all of America, and the world symbols that will forever memorialize individually the men, women, and children that were lost that dreadful day. We shall never forget them. It is fitting that we present this flag of honor today to Customs and Border Protection, an agency who has felt the impact of the attack in many ways, an agency conceived because of the attacks. In the words of our beloved President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the cost of freedom is always high, but Americans have always paid it. And one path we shall never choose, and that is the path of surrender or submission. We, the men and women of Customs and Border Protection, are the guardians of our nation's borders. We are America's front line. We safeguard the American homeland at and beyond our borders. And now, it's with great pride the members of Woodmen of the World Lodge 462 present this flag of honor to Customs and Border Protection and to all of America's heroes. We thank you for joining us today and for being a part of our ceremony. May God bless you, and may God bless America. On display. Woodmen also has a U.S. flag code and guidelines booklet that if you're interested, you're welcome to take a copy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mabel. Thank you again, once again, to the Woodmen of the World. We'll add that it's going to be an honor for me on behalf of the Port of Champlain to accept this flag, and also to thank MTU and Thomas O'Keefe. The union is going to frame this flag. We're going to have it framed, and we're going to display it then in the passenger building in a prominent place at a future date once we get the framing. But, we all remember where we were on 9/11. As Thomas mentioned earlier, just several months ago, we did celebrate the 10th anniversary. And we were born out of that, Customs and Border Protection. We all know the long, short history of that, but we all know where we were. We all know what we were doing, whether we were in the agency, somewhere else. For me personally, I had a childhood friend that's name's displayed on the flag that went into the towers on Flight 175 out of Boston to San Francisco that day. So it's going to be, you know, ever since that happened, I've rededicated what I do with the agency in Pat's honor to his family. So, you know, I have extra incentive each and every day to do the things that I do. But again, thank you for offering the flag. Again, thank you, Thomas. Thank everyone for being here. Please take an opportunity to come by and look at the flag. It is, if you can use the word beautiful, it's a beautiful display of nearly 3,000 individuals that lost their lives, nearly 100 countries that are displayed on the flag, citizens of various parts around the world. You know, our Canadian counterparts having nearly 100 names etched on there as well. That's going to fly, you know, hang proudly here as well. So thank each and every one of you for your time this afternoon.
Tom O'Keefe, formerly known as Tom Keefe, and head of the union. Give us that union name again.
National Treasury Employees Union, Chapter 138.
And that serves from how far to?
It serves from Champlain all the way to Alex Bay, down to Albany, about 550 employees total. So it's grown quite a bit since the days when I started here, let's put it that way.
Okay, when you say Champlain, you include Rouse's Point?
Champlain, yeah, Rouse's Point, Moores, all the outlane, yeah, all the way down, yeah.
From the lake on west.
All the boats, etc. Yeah, you get that. The boats have actually turned into quite an industry, so we've actually got a better handle on those because of the events of 9/11 too. So,
yeah,
that's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah, and of course with the water frozen over, it's a challenge probably in the wintertime to.
It can be, but you know, we work hand in hand with our CBP partners, the Border Patrol, excuse me, and they do a pretty good job monitoring the lake, you know, with some of the elaborate equipment that they use, which I probably couldn't tell you, and I don't even know anyway. So.
That's okay. Now, what's going to happen to this flag? Paul said.
Well, yeah, we've worked pretty hand in hand with the agency since 9/11. We've had a ceremony every year, as you know. You've covered it quite a bit, which we appreciate very much. And what we're going to do is take this flag and we're going to have it professionally framed. And the agency sometimes has a hard time, you know, with congressional allocated money doing that kind of stuff, but we're a little freer with the union to do that kind of stuff. So we'll get an authorization from our membership and we'll get a nicely framed, and we want to hang it so we can never forget. Like I said, it's just tragic sometimes that we forget some of the things. We have a very short memory when things happen to us, and I don't want this to ever be forgotten by anybody. I think this is something that will generationally live like Pearl Harbor lived, you know, unfortunately, but it's something that we have to keep our eye on, because if we don't, I think it could happen again.
Oh, as you said, it probably will happen again.
It's
on some scale.
It's really not even a question of if, it's will. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
You just got to keep that scale to a minimum. And,
exactly.
And knock out the 99%.
Exactly, and we hope, you know, as a union, by flying this flag, that it'll keep, you know, future employees dedicated to the level that we're dedicated. I mean, as you look around now, a lot of the employees have retired since 9/11. A lot of them don't even have a corporate history of what happened that day. There's very few of us around, and then now it's the next generations. We have to pass them the torch, so to speak. So this will be part of passing that torch in the history of this place.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Pearl Harbor, and Bob Ben and I were very fortunate to have talked with Frank Kavanaugh, who was there, but that will be 70 years on December 8th of this year.
That's true.
So the people who were there and witnessed that are getting fewer all the time.
Exactly, and you have to have, like I said, some type of corporate history to pass on generationally. I mean, that's what history's all about. And you know, the old adage, if you don't learn from history, you're damned to repeat it. So you know, a lot of that generation is gone now, but we still have a lot of the memories in film and story, and that's where guys like you come in. And I think you provide an invaluable service, and I have to apologize, because one of the people I wanted to give a plug to when I was up there giving my speech was you, because I think you do provide a valuable service to this community for a very low price, and I think I hope people are still rallying around your service, because it's really great to watch these things and capture locally that which you know, the big news agencies don't think is worthy, you know, which is kind of too bad, but it's a good thing you're around. I know it's underappreciated. It's kind of like what I do for a living, you know. Nobody wants you around until they want you to cover your event. So hopefully you get the kudos you deserve too.
Yeah, well, Sometimes people think that I've got a paycheck somewhere else.
I know. And I'll tell you, there's nothing like my wife, as you know, retired from this agency, and she worked for Bob, and we'll be sitting in the living room, and we don't get it in Plattsburgh, I don't think, anymore, but we used to get it in Rouse's Point. We'd hear Bob's voice, and it is kind of neat to be able to go, to like turn back the hands of time. In fact, I saw one a couple 3 or 4 months ago before I moved to Plattsburgh with my mother, which was really kind of neat to see. You were interviewing her something about the bazaar Bob was. So, I mean, I think it's a great service you provide, and I hope people rally around you in this community because you do a hell of a job.
Okay, well, appreciate that, Tom. So after saying that, I guess you can't say anything better than that.
That's it. Calvin's the best. So thank you for coming again, Calvin.
I appreciate what you do, Tom.
Thank you.
All right, Tom O'Keefe from the local union here. Okay, we've got the port director, Paul Mangillo. I'm always hesitant about pronouncing that. Mangillo.
Mongillo.
Well,
Mon like Monday, a gill like a fish, and then O is the easiest way.
I could spell it, but I imagine you're probably used to having it mispronounced.
Yeah, having lived multiple places around the country and predominantly in the southwest of the country, like in Texas, having lived there many years, they'll say Monguillo with that double L as a Y.
Because it's Spanish pronunciation.
Exactly, and then I'll stand up and they go, no, we didn't say that right. How do you say your name?
Well, what nationality is it?
It's Italian. It actually has an E-I-E, but as my great-grandparents immigrated to the United States from Italy outside the Naples area, they dropped the E as many nationalities changed their names to make them Americanized.
Yeah, well, even I know my name, Castine, and until the first guy who camped here in 1860s in Champlain, spelled an entirely different way till they camped here. So it's
Right.
It's so everything is Americanized. A very nice ceremony today, Paul.
Thank you. Yeah, it was very nice. It's an honor, not only on the veterans as we talked about earlier with Thomas and having Veterans Day. We changed as an agency. We came together as to what we are today, that one face at the border, because of the events of 9/11, merging a lot of agencies that formed the Department of Homeland Security, which Customs and Border Protection being part of that, and then the agricultural, the immigration, and the customs components, merging into one. So it's very special. So as you talk of 9/11, every employee, can think back and even, and be a part of that part of the change in history. Because that's historic at the time that a government agency, reorganizing to that magnitude.
Yeah, because even if a person wasn't part of the agency then, they certainly remember where they were and what they were doing.
Yes, it's interesting. We have a lot of employees, and as we've had roundtables around 9/11 to talk about, because many employees had family, friends that were touched by it, and you would ask for a show of hands who was with the agency, and there weren't a lot of hands, which means we've grown, since that time. But also, well, where were you on 9? Oh, I was in grade school, I was in middle school, in high school. It just makes you think of, wow, everybody wasn't in the agency, everybody wasn't, an officer. They were other places that have now joined this great agency. So interesting.
Yeah, and you wonder, as an adult, it affects you one way, but as a young kid, you wonder, with the impact of them, were they suddenly scared? I remember I was born in 47, and of course in the early 50s was the great communist scare. And I remember as a 4-year-old cowering down, wondering if the communists were going to come peeking through the windows, So you wonder how it affects children.
Oh, no, absolutely. Having been in Eastern Europe, in Romania specifically, 4 or 5 years, 6 years after the revolution of 1989, and you look at things and you say it takes a generation or two, because the parents, the adults, the grandparents, all they've known in this case was communism. So it's hard for them today to be a communist. Tomorrow we're not communists. But it's the children, it's those generations as they go through their lives, because they don't know the communist ways. They only know what their parents, grandparents are telling them. So to see that cultural, even with our youth today, is, what impact did they have? But when they come into the agency, they have that commitment for the law enforcement. They understand the passion and the folks that are here. So to keep that alive. So very, very interesting.
Well, I think it's probably safe to say that without those attacks on September 11th, 2001, probably this building right here may not have been here in such a large fashion. I know there are safety factors too, besides there are accents above and so on, but a lot of changes were done here right at the Champlain Customs.
No, absolutely. This facility that we have, that we're in today, started in 1998 as far as the planning and the designs, but after the 9/11, the attacks, a lot of things were changed. And you see that across the CBP now at the ports of entry as they're being modernized and bringing them up to standards of today, not only with the technology that's invested in the port, but the security and the things. Our mission changed overnight. Historically being narcotics, trade, and a host of other things, now terrorists and terroristic weapons of mass effect became the number one priority, along with the narcotics, along with the trade, along with a host of other things. But our focus changed. So with that focus, you have to have the facilities. And we're very fortunate here in Champlain to have this beautiful facility, and it's being modernized all the time.
Yeah, so, it's for a small area like this. There's what is the traffic flow here? A couple million a year?
Yeah, we have this past year is just a little over 2 million, 2.1 million vehicles that have crossed the port. With the expansion, of course, you do get occasionally the wait times, but it's not like it had been historically, where it had been hours upon hours on end. Typically, the Canadian holidays, is a challenge for us. But also with that is we know ahead of time. We know the historical patterns. We know the trends. I call the 100 days of summer, Memorial Day to Labor Day. So having all that knowledge and information, we're able to pre-plan. So the lanes are open at 6 in the morning, where this past year, because of historical data, we knew, no, let's not do it at 6, let's do it at 5 in the morning. So we're in advance of all that buildup. So there is going to be a little buildup, but when that happens, it's not like we're reacting to it. We've already pre-planned for it. So it makes a big difference.
Okay. Anything else, Paul? You'd like to?
No, we thank the Hometown News again for coming out and being part of the event. This flag is going to prominently hang in our passenger processing building for all to see. And again, we thank the National Treasury Employees Union for their efforts, and also for making the donation of the frame for the flag. So it's going to prominently be displayed. So we're very pleased and very honored that the Woodmen of the world were able to donate it to the port.
I
So
can't
thank
think of
you.
a place that deserves it more.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
There you go, perfect.
They're going to hold the flag up, and Tim Gagnon is going to take a photo of it. This will give our viewers a chance to see what the flag looks like. The stripes, they recognize, of course, the stars, but the stripes, each of those contains, each row contains hundreds of names. And as was said, those are the names of the people who perished back on September 11th, 2011, 2001. Okay, we have the Gagnon siblings here, but today they are not here because they're siblings, they're because they're both involved with the Woodmen of the world. Linda, you're vice president to be, or president to be, right?
President to be,
Yeah.
vice president right now.
2012, you're
For the,
in
you're
20
yes,
in 2012 you'll be president of the lodge.
correct,
Okay. Right now you're the vice president,
correct.
and you're also working here at the.
Port of Champlain, yes.
What do you do here?
I'm an import specialist, a senior import specialist, which deals with the classification and value of the commercial shipments that come through the border.
I had a friend who used to work here, did something similar to that. The guy's named Bob Venn. You ever meet him?
Yes, I loved Bob very much. Thank you. He was one of my mentors.
And Tim, you're also with the Woodmen.
Yeah, I'm the secretary of Lodge 462. I'm also the secretary of Lodge 1 in Vermont, and the area manager for Vermont and Long Island.
So you're a Woodman 24/7.
24/7.
This flag, how long has this flag been available? Anybody know for sure?
Actually they've been doing it, I believe, since 2002. This flag has been available throughout the country. This is the 10th anniversary version of that flag. They continue to do work with it, and it's a wonderful idea that was brought up. And Linda, I think you had the gentleman's name during your speech today. And everything that is put out to purchase these flags and do this type of thing, it goes toward the families of 9/11. So.
There's several different charities, including the families of 9/11 and different organizations dedicated to keeping the memory alive.
Okay, I first became familiar with it when you gave one back on, I think it was around September 10th
yeah.
in Chazy, and I was very impressed. There's also a similar one. This is what the honor, and there's also
This is the
heroes.
flag of honor. There's also the flag of heroes, which is actually just the emergency personnel who were victims of 9/11.
Okay, so would it be safe to say that we can look forward to more similar flag presentations like this here in the region?
All a group that's a public organization has to do is contact one of us and for either a regular flag or this flag of honor. We've purchased several, and we'd be more than happy to present it. We will be presenting one to Northeastern Clinton in a couple of weeks. It'll go in both elementary schools and the high school. As I said, anyone who would like one should contact us, and we have several lodges throughout the state, throughout the nation, and we'd be more than pleased to give them a flag.
And we're also
Okay.
lining one up for Niagara Hose here in Champlain. The fire department just spoke with the gentleman here, and we will be doing that as well.
I warned him. I said, if they haven't contacted
If
you,
you want one of those flags, you're going to get one of these too.
well, anything else, folks?
No?
Appreciate you inviting me here, and we'll
We
see
appreciate
you
you coming, Calvin, and we
We always appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you. So that will conclude our look at this November 17th presentation here at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security on the Champlain, New York, U.S. Canadian border. And nice job, as always, by the Woodmen. And we want to second the motion that we appreciate the efforts that are done here every day in protecting our borders.